So before we go any further, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping and tidy up our scene a bit. So let's first bring in a camera and get our scene composition locked back in. So we'll head back to the Redshift menu and add a new standard Redshift camera. And we'll activate that. Then we'll come down to the Object tab and set up our focal length. We'll use the same 80mm lens we had back in DAZ Studio, which is a great focal length for portraits. Then we'll just frame this up like we did before. Somewhere about there looks good, and we can always come back later and tweak this if we need to. So now that that's set up, let's tidy up our objects here. I think the naming straight from DAZ is a little bit confusing, so let's simplify these. This is our main character geometry. So rather than Genesis 8 female shape, let's just call this character. Then we've got our bracelets. So we'll just call them bracelet left and bracelet right. Then we've got the pendant, the necklace, and the flowers, and the braided part of the hair. And then we have the filler object, which if we hide, doesn't look like it was even visible. So let's move it out a bit and see what it looks like. We can't actually see the gizmo though, so we'll need to center the axis point with the Axis Center tool. And now we can move that out from behind the hair. And it is just an extra layer of hair, which I guess is just to give this a bit more volume, but it's barely noticeable on our character. So I think we could probably get away without it. So I'll actually delete that, which should slim down our scene even more, which is always good. Then we've got the heaviest object in our scene, which is the hair itself. So we'll just rename that. And next we have her skirt, which in this particular framing, we don't actually see. So again, there's probably not much point keeping it because the more we have in our scene, the slower the render. So let's scrap that as well. Then I'll just quickly rename these last few things. I think you get the gist of this now. And I'll just sort these into groups to make it even easier to find things. We'll put our character at the top, followed by the character's eyelashes. Then the hair and flowers can go after that. And the jewelry and accessories together at the bottom. And then to keep things even more organized, let's put these into layers. So we'll add a layer for character elements. And the character and her eyelashes can go in there, as well as the materials belonging to those, which you can see with these selected, all of their associated materials are highlighted in here. So we can easily grab all of those and plonk them onto that layer as well. And that gives us a handy tab we can use to isolate only those materials. So we'll show our remaining layerless materials and carry on with the rest of the objects. We'll put the dress on a layer called clothes, along with its material. Then the hair and braid can go onto another layer, which we'll call hair, along with their many materials. And it looks like we missed the dress, so we'll put that in here. Then we'll make another layer for flowers and put all of that in here. Then we'll do one more for the jewelry, and in there goes everything else. So let's see if we have any materials left, just what was on the objects we deleted before. So we don't actually need these anymore either. So I'll just do an edit, delete unused materials. And now we have all of our materials organized into these different tabs, which is going to make life much easier later on. And having things on layers also means we can solo all the different objects as we work on them to keep things running nice and fast. So before we finish up, let's add one more layer and call it scene, which is where we can put all of our miscellaneous scene objects, like our camera, and later on when we create our lights. And I think we'll do exactly that in the next lesson, where we'll start lighting our scene with Redshift.